If I start with this one, it's an enemy order of battle map. It shows the locations and identifications of all the German divisions on the Western Front after the Passchendaele battle. The date is 3rd of December 1917, and this was prepared in the intelligence branch of the staff in France at General Headquarters, Hague's headquarters. And what's important about this is it shows that we could identify, when I say we, I mean the General Headquarters, the intelligence people, could identify every single division along the Western Front and where it had come from and where it was going to, back to the Eastern Front, for example, or further south. And what this points out is the efficiency of the intelligence department of the General Staff at that time. And the information it gathered from a lot of different sources, from prisoners, for example, from train watching networks behind the enemy lines, all sorts of different sources of information compiled together. So it's maps like that and others as well which help to give the lie to the idea that the troops were just lions led by donkeys. Most of the generals and the staff officers, and indeed officers at all levels, were particularly good at their job. And during the war, there was quite a learning curve. Obviously, a lot of them started the war as civilians, and they had to learn while they were doing the job. But certainly from 1916 onwards, increasing professionalism and efficiency in the General Staff. So we can look at an awful lot of maps and the survey that was done in connection with the maps and the use of aerial photography and so on, and realize that a lot of the stories about staff incompetence and so on, and the incompetence of the army generally, are simply a load of nonsense. The map and the survey-related activities were themselves leading to new strategic directions. And I think a very good example of that is the British Battle of Cambrai in November 1917, when the mapping and survey techniques that were applied, particularly to artillery work, predicted fire, meant that the artillery could be targeted very accurately and open fire with a crash suddenly at 0 hour. The tanks could all roll forward, 400 tanks, flattening the German barbed wire, breaking through the Hindenburg line, and creating the potential for a breakthrough, a rupture, and then pouring troops through that. The Battle of Cambrai led, first of all, to new types of battles in 1918, typically what we call the British Battles of the 100 Days, when these essentially blitzkrieg tactics were used from August the 8th in 1918 onwards to predicted artillery fire, tanks, aircraft, the intelligent use of all arms integrated, surprise and shock. And this is a technique that the Germans picked up on as well. The Germans were also developing predicted fire during the First World War. Very famously, their Colonel Bruckmüller, Breakthrough Müller, Durchbruch Müller, had developed techniques on the Eastern Front, which were very similar and very effective, but they didn't have the tanks. In the interwar period, the Germans picked up on our doctrine of predicted fire and tank attack, essentially a blitzkrieg attack, and it's a model that they then used. They built up their armoured forces with this doctrine in their rearmament period under Hitler in the 30s, and used it very effectively in France and the Low Countries in 1940, for example, and then when they attacked Russia in 1941. So there are interesting continuities here. And the First World War saw some tremendously important developments in weapons technology, including mapping and survey, which helped to change the strategic picture altogether.